well. So I'm sitting here today with Charles Okara. We've known each other on and off for a long time. How you doing, Charles?
I'm doing great. It's an honor to be here talking to all of you.
Thanks. So Charles is a software engineer based in Washington, D.C., and has over 10 years of industry experience working in the startup world. He's currently a staff engineer at Arcadia, a clean energy company, and previously worked at Optoro and CodeSherpas. He has a bachelor's degree in computer science and mathematics from St. Lawrence University, and he's been actively involved in the local tech scene through meetups, conferences, and events. When he's not at work, he enjoys reading and spending time outdoors, either running or biking. You can also find him testing out new technologies and ideas on his Raspberry Pi. I'm going to ask you about that Pi. So tell me, Charles, working at Arcadia, what is your day job like? What do you do?
As a staff engineer, which comes with time, I'm tasked with delivering solutions. And that entails basically collaborating with the product team, the marketing team, and talking to other engineers on how to deliver the solutions. So my day-to-day is split between meetings, some code reviews where you just look at what your colleagues have written and you collaborate on whether that's good enough or what needs to be fixed. Catching up on emails and lots and lots of Slack threads. And then I'm also tasked with these nebulous solutions that could be one day a thing. So I end up doing some research, digging into like different APIs, reading a lot of documentation, just a lot of more of the leadership and architectural design decisions put upon me. And then the actual coding is done by I do some coding here and there, but like a lot less, especially over the past year.
Yeah, when we worked together, you did a lot.
Thank you. So that's the easy part. The code is the easy part. The hard part is like figuring out what the business needs to do.
Well, so that's an interesting perception I have with my students. When they talk about career paths, a lot of them think they need to end up working at a big company like Google or Facebook, or they think this is going to be some kind of boring desk job in a cubicle someplace, and that it's all about writing code. So most of what you mentioned is more about the stuff you're not going to see, even in a college path about, collaborating on business requirements. Let's get into that a little bit.
Collaboration is a big thing. That one you just have to learn with time. We can talk about that later. But it helps knowing how to code because the fundamentals of an engineer is basically, writing code that works, that solves a particular problem. But that's just a piece of the whole puzzle. You have to make sense of what it is you're doing as a business. And a lot of my brain cycles go towards like, what are we trying to do as a business? Or how do we make sure that what we build today isn't junk tomorrow? And understanding all the trade-offs that come in with like any decision we make, whether it's technical or just as a business, we decide to pivot and do something else, or the engineering implications of those decisions. So the code becomes downstream to what we're doing.
Just define the problem before you can solve the problem.
Yeah. So like, for instance, in Arcadia, we're dealing with, we're in the clean energy space. There's a lot of decisions around this because it's like it's a startup, so everyone gets to have a say, but it's also an obvious problem without a really obvious solution. So we're always iterating on what's the next thing that works best. And where I come in is, this is what our engineering stack can do right now, and this is what we can do in the next 2 weeks. This is what we can do in 6 months. And sometimes just like, oh, your idea is great, but it does not fit where we are right now. If you want something delivered in 2 weeks, we have to meet somewhere in the middle or cut corners or have a compromise, or maybe just not even do it at all. But it's those decisions that we make and then come up with concrete deliverables as engineers that we actually say, okay, yeah, we're ready to start coding now, and this aligns with the mission of the company.
So let's talk a little bit about your bachelor's degree in computer science and mathematics.
Yes.
Let's go back to high school. My next question is about how you got into this field, but I'm curious, in high school, how did you decide that that's what you were going to major in?
Yeah, so I went in high school in Kenya, and there was a what was it called? I forget. It wasn't really computer science, but I think it was called computer science. It was one of those classes. I wasn't computer savvy growing up. I had access to like a computer here and there, my dad's computer, just for doing random stuff. But I wasn't that much into games. I wasn't that much into algorithms. I wasn't that much into soldering or any of that stuff all kids have access to right now. But I was very, very, I adopted science from a young age, proving things, building things, and like I became really good at math at some point. And it was just like, it was easy for me. Math was just easy because it was just like, it makes sense. A part of me also really likes building things. Made my own toys from what I've used in the trash. I actually thought like growing up, I'll have like, my own lab. So there was not much programming in that mindset. But after like in high school, talking to these kids who were doing computer science, they were doing programming. And it was really hard because they spent a lot of the time doing computer science homeworks. But you talk to them and they start piecing together like what's wrong with your computer or things like that. And I was like, I need to understand that. I felt this urge to understand how computers work and how to even like hack. I watched a kid like build up a calculator using C++. This is in high school, just like real quick. And I was just like really jealous. Like you could build that and I could not. And it was around the time where, the web was becoming a thing. It was hitting Africa. It was hitting the whole world basically. And the definition of literacy, at least the way I saw it back then, was the ability to interact with a computer more than just like clicking things. To me, I felt like understanding how a computer thinks or how it works was, to me, a form of literacy. So when it came to applying for college or what I want to do, I knew it will be in the lines of programming. I just didn't know exactly what. So I applied for college, went to college and did computer science and math. I can't say like I knew I'd be doing this right now, but definitely I knew I'd be in this field.
Yeah. So what languages did you learn in college?
I did a lot of Java, was like the go-to language at the college and probably most colleges back then, the mid-2000s. That was just like to get your first program out of the way. You did Java, installed all these things on your computer, had an IDE. I think we used Eclipse, that was the default IDE. And then I remember for just the next level class was maybe data structures or like design or something where we use C++. It was interesting. It was kind of hard. That's when you spent like a lot of time doing homework because syntax errors are just like a thing. And you just like live with it, and you start questioning your career choices and everything. But we did a lot of Java to just explain concepts like how programming languages work. When we shipped our own like little compiler, Lexer, all that stuff. We did all that in Java. And then we did a little bit of functional programming, but we dabbled in Scheme, Lisp. What else? We didn't do JavaScript at all in college. Some kids did that for their own independent senior projects. But
even when we worked together, JavaScript was not the big thing it is now. It was
Yeah.
largely a little bit of animation or a little bit of responses to clicks done on web pages. There were not
Yeah.
these big single page apps.
Yeah, it was just browser oriented language. It was like, okay, you want to do some HTML or you want to build a website, do HTML, a little bit of CSS and JavaScript. Like it was purely just like web based and web focused. And we did a little bit of that just to like round us up before we're told like you're ready to graduate and go to the real world. We dabble in that, but not enough. Also, it's just JavaScript. You'll never know enough. But in my senior year, I started playing around with like just got more into Java, but I started getting comfortable in the Linux environment, which was not a big thing. At least back in my college, everyone was doing their stuff in like Windows machines or Macs. But I was like, I want to learn Linux. I want to be comfortable in the shell. I want to use, a compile language. I want to play with Perl. I want to play with Bash. I want to play with Ruby. I want to be comfortable with these languages that seem scripty.
Well, yeah, I can see. I mean, if your goal was to build things, getting underneath the IDE and understanding the moving parts was probably a big part of that.
Exactly. Yeah. I was ran into this blocker, and one of my professors was just like, always curse. Like we're doing, teaching the class with a big white screen. Always curse out the computer because it's like, I wish I did this. I wish I had my Linux machine right now. We could have finished this thing. But since it was like classroom and the computer's already there, it's like has to like teach from whatever's there.
Well, so what have you used professionally? We've mentioned a lot of language there.
Mostly Ruby to date.
Certainly there's a lot of JavaScript in there, though.
There was my last job. There was a time I wrote JavaScript for like almost 6 months straight with Ruby. It was on a Rails stack, but a lot of JavaScript. But it's not my go-to language. I'm least comfortable there on the JavaScript end. I'm uncomfortable a lot of places, by the way. But in terms of like things I should kind of know, that's like my weakest.
Yeah, I'm the same way. JavaScript is so prevalent now, but it's never been a language I've loved. No secret to you, Ruby is my favorite language. I love it.
Yeah, Ruby. It's been through a lot. I think I joined late. Back in our days, it was slow and everything. It had a bad rap, but the thing that it did the best is that it worked. And guess what? It still works.
I can solve a problem in that language, unlike any others. I can solve in a half dozen languages, but Ruby's the one I go to.
Yeah, Ruby is my go-to language just because back in the day, that's like my first professional job was about Ruby. My second job was all about Ruby. This job I'm doing right now is mostly in Ruby. And the more I understand it, the more I understand the power of what it does. And I played with Python a little bit. And if I was to compare both, they're very similar in very many ways. But if you're to tap into programmer happiness, Ruby has an edge.
Help me bust a little bit of a stereotype here in that people that are software engineers that go get computer science majors, they're all nerds who sit at a desk job and don't really have any hobbies or any social life. What hobbies do you have? What's your life outside of work like, at least when we're not quarantining over COVID?
I know. One of the things about me is I just struggle getting into video games or anything like that. You'd think someone who did CS in college or even dabbled in some of this in high school, and a lot of my colleagues all about video games and all that stuff. But I am just like never into it. I struggle, and a lot of people also joined because they thought like they'll build cool games and everything. That was never a driving factor for me. It's like games is one thing, but so I don't play video games. If you talk to me about video games, I have a PlayStation that I never touch. I used to watch Netflix nowadays. TVs have everything.
Yeah, my sons are all about awesome video games, and I can admire the graphics and stuff, but give me a good puzzle.
Oh yeah, yeah, but like I also like I was active. I've always been active. From back in the day in high school, played rugby. Always wanted to be outside. So if I'm not inside here doing COVID, I'm out there biking around or running or just sitting at the park. Enjoy reading. Whether it's like Economist or a new book or just catching up on like blogs or whatever.
What genre do you read?
I read everything. I try to avoid fiction, but The Economist is my go-to. So that covers pretty much like everything. And then if it's a book, I'd do a technical and then a non-technical, technical, non-technical. Keeping a balance between that, and that consumes you. It's like it's always having a book to read is a good thing, but before you know it, you're always reading.
Yeah. I'm always trying to figure out a way to get stuff into my head. Either books or podcasts or Audible books.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like to read fiction, but I like to listen to it. Most of what I read is non-technical as well. I mean, nonfiction.
So yeah, there's a lot of nonfiction is what I gravitate to. But if it's fiction, there's always a purpose or like a takeaway that you can apply to your daily life. So that's at least that's why I read fiction, if at all. It's like, how do I apply that way of thinking, or how do I apply whatever happened this past 300 pages to my daily life?
Okay, so let's bring this back around and make it relevant to my audience. If you could go back, like as you are right now, and just tell something to yourself in high school, what would it be?
High school, like, yeah. I'll look at that kid and I'll tell him that I think as far as like being, let me not use the word successful because that's a heavy loaded word, but like it will be really helpful to learn how to collaborate going forward. And that means like, so in high school, in particular in high school, you just like get in class, get your good grades, go home. And you don't have a sense of responsibility for anyone else unless you're given like a group project where it's like what happened. But if you can find a way to tap in and help someone else, or whether it's welcome or if it's welcome, obviously, but have a way to see if you can test your patience by trying to help others who might need help. Work on your interpersonal skills. See whether you can volunteer to, TA or teach kids who might be struggling with something that comes natural to you. It's hard. I didn't do enough of that. I did a little bit of that, but I just felt it was not my problem. Like, I'm gonna get my grades and go to college, and then from there you leave someone behind. But come to think of it, maybe that was a little selfish. Maybe just trying to get something together with someone else is it's a pretty rewarding experience, especially when you end up mentoring someone. Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time today.
Yeah.
I'm sure if anybody posts any questions in the chat below, I think I'd appreciate it if you'd follow in and answer any of them, and maybe we'll do a follow-up interview someday.
Oh yeah, I'd love to do that. I'll ask hard questions and then I'll let you know.
Thanks for your time. Hope to see you at a Code and Coffee or something after life returns to a little bit more normalcy.
Yeah, I hope we find a way to talk more with the new normal.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.